Hello, Hello, Wisconsin. Am I on? Can you hear me? All right. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Thank you for coming out. It's so important. I talk about this all the time. It's so important for conservatives to come out, for people to stand up, speak out, support America. There's never been a more important time for conservatives to show up. So thank you so much for being here, and give yourselves a round of applause for doing that. You know, I'm a person who's really big on symbolism, and before I started a movement of people to destroy the Democratic Party, I was actually somebody who was in the world of acting, theater, doing some film work, television, things like that. And I look around today, and I don't know if this was intentional, but I think it's actually very symbolic and kind of beautiful that we're surrounded by all of these gorgeous vintage cars, all of which you look at, and you kind of remember these different eras of America, even if you weren't around necessarily to live during that time. But you look and you think of all of these incredible, iconic cars that represent different times of America's greatness, I think. Simpler times, happier times in America. And it really, really makes you think about where we are today, and where we turn on our television sets, we turn on the news, we look at our social media, and all we're inundated with time and time and time again are these images of radical leftists destroying our country. Literally, quite literally destroying, not just the fabric, but quite literally burning buildings, looting, starting fires, causing mass havoc and destruction around the country. And all of this is done with great design, because what the media wants you to feel is completely demoralized. They want you to feel powerless. They want you to feel outnumbered. They want you to feel like what your hopes and dreams and your beliefs and what is so great about our country are specific to you only, and that's a time that's over, because the left is going to take over. They've done this all with great design. I'm here to tell you that I am living proof that people can change and that we can save this country. I used to be one of these people on the left. I used to be a card-carrying Democrat. I used to be a liberal, and I'm very sorry for all of it. I'd like to, yes, thank you. I actually voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Go ahead, you can boo. Get it out of your system. I don't want you guys to get cramps. Yes, it's true. I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and I actually was one of these people who was shattered when Donald Trump got elected. I was shattered really because for a number of reasons. Number one, I was incredibly scared and terrified, which we'll come back to in just a moment. But I was also greatly confused, because the media that I trusted implicitly had told me for 18 months that he had like a 3% chance of winning, and that Hillary Clinton, the most deserved, most prepared candidate who'd ever run for office, was going to take this in a landslide, and that we would have a continuation of what we'd just come off of 8 great years of a scandal-free presidency by Barack Obama. Right. So I was fully prepared for this. I was prepared for that. I was not prepared for the earthquake that happened when Donald Trump got elected on Election Day. And so in my pain and my confusion and my anger and my resentment, I really wanted to understand how this had happened. And so I went on a journey of research, which really just began with 2 questions. Number one, how did the media get this so wrong? Why didn't they know that this was going to happen? And number 2, why would anybody vote for a man who's such a racist, a bigot, a deplorable, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, whatever phobic that you can imagine? Why would anyone vote for this man? And so I went on this long journey of research, and ultimately what I discovered after several months of reading and asking questions and watching videos and listening to conservatives debate liberals and talking to Trump supporters, what I discovered is Donald Trump is not my enemy. The media in this country is my enemy. But although the media in this country is our enemy, we have another problem as well, and that is the silence of conservatives in this country. Our silence is our consent, and that consent is what has allowed the radical left to completely take over every aspect of our culture, from entertainment to academia to quite literally our streets and our neighborhoods across the country right now. And what I really want to talk to all of you about today, because the theme here is America versus socialism. And that's very true. I mean, socialism is one of the key tenets right now that the radical left is pushing for, but there's so much more. I mean, what I really want to talk about, I think, is America versus the radical left. Can we win this war? Can we win this culture war, and how are we going to do it? Well, the answer is yes. Yes, we can win this war, and I believe very firmly that we will win this war, although I don't want to become complacent about it in being overconfident. What I want to say is that, like the rest of you, I watched most of this summer, starting at the end of May, as the radical left was allowed to go out in our country, smash windows, burn buildings, burn neighborhoods, burn businesses. I'm feeling emotional as I'm talking about this because we sat in our homes told that we weren't allowed to go outside. We weren't allowed to be in the streets. We had to stay home. We had to close our businesses. We had to tank our economy, and that we weren't allowed to go out and do what we needed to do. But the radical left was allowed by the Democrat politicians and by the liberal media with complete impunity to go out and destroy our neighborhoods and destroy our country and to commit acts of vandalism and acts of violence and even acts of murder. And it was all done with complete and total impunity, but they were actually glorified time and time again by the media and excused. This behavior was excused. I live in New York City, and the New York City health chair in New York actually said, if we see a spike in coronavirus cases, don't blame the protesters. Blame racism. Blame racism. So you're allowed to break social distancing orders, and you're allowed to break, wearing mask mandates. You're allowed to break stay-at-home orders if you're fighting this make-believe problem on the left of white supremacy takeover in this country. It's absolutely enraging, and it's absurd. And like all of you, I watched night after night after night on my television. I watched on Facebook and Twitter and social media. And I became demoralized day after day after day. And I said to myself, as I'm sure the rest of you did, is anybody going to do anything about this? Who is going to stand up and fight for our country? Who's going to do something? Where's the leadership? Where's the pushback? Where's the fight back? And then finally, I said to myself, perhaps I'm being called upon right now. I am going to do something about this. I am going to stand up, and I'm going to take a stance right now to rescue America. And so, now, briefly, for anybody who doesn't know, my journey of walking away from the Democratic Party resulted in 2018 in me creating an organization called the WalkAway campaign. I didn't feel, thank you. The social distancing is so weird. The applause starts in the back, and then it takes about 5 minutes to get to the front. Thank you back there. It's kind of fun once you just start rolling with it. The purpose of my organization is to try to wake people up of every walk of life, the black community, the LGBT community, the Hispanic community, the Jewish community. And yes, in WalkAway, we love straight white people, straight white men. We love you too. We're trying to get all people to walk away. But I discovered something in the process of creating this organization, which, by the way, now has close to 400,000 people who have joined in the original movement. I discovered an inherent truth about conservatives, which was really, really difficult for me to adjust to, and it's an ongoing adjustment. There is a reason why conservatives are called the silent majority in this country. And what I found is that unlike liberals, let me tell you something about liberals. Liberals, people put out one text message, one phone call, one social media post, and they say, we're all meeting tonight in such and such a location, and we're going to rally and we're going to protest. We're going to fight against white supremacists. We're fighting for Black Lives Matter, and thousands of people will show up that same day. Thousands. With conservatives, I do these same types of events around the country, And all I hear is, I'm kind of afraid. What if Antifa shows up? What if Black Lives Matter shows up? My Saturdays are my days off, and I like to spend them with my kids and my grandkids, and I like to, But conservatives tell me, we don't really march, we don't really rally, we don't really do that, but we vote. We vote. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell all of you, voting is no longer good enough. It's not enough. It is not enough to go in every 4 years or every 2 years or however you do it. It's not enough, because voting might get the people into office that you want to be into office, but voting is not going to have an impact on our culture 365 days a year. The radical left has been allowed to take over nearly every aspect of American culture at this point because they show up 365 days a year for their causes. And they vote too, by the way. You're not the only ones voting. We're not the only people voting. They also vote. And I'll tell you something. Another thing that conservatives say to me is, we don't really march. Why would I go to a rally? Why would I go to a march? What difference is that really going to make? Well, let me tell you what a difference it makes to go to a march or to go to a rally or to show up. Just over 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, if somebody had said to you, I'm running for office, and I'm going to run on a platform of defunding the police, I think that we should cut the budgets. We should have less police security. We should have less policing in our neighborhoods. In fact, I'm running on a platform of demonizing the police altogether. We would all start laughing, and we would say, that person's insane. This is preposterous. That's a terrible platform that will never work. But in just 2.5 months, because the radical left showed up day after day after day, marching and chanting and exerting their will and saying, we must defund the police. The police are evil. The police are bad. We now have politicians in this country running on a platform of defunding the police. My mayor in New York City cut 1/5 of the police budget. That's over $1 billion for the New York City police budget. And in these last few months, murders have skyrocketed. And you want to talk about black lives? They don't care. It's in black neighborhoods that these black kids are getting murdered. A 14-year-old black boy was shot in the head and killed in Harlem, in New York City. And no police were around to do anything about it. They interviewed his neighbor. And his neighbor, a black woman, said, the police don't come into our neighborhood anymore. We're scared to death. And this is what they have accomplished in 2 short months because they rallied, because they showed up, because they said, this is what we want, these are our demands, and none of us showed up to say no. No, absolutely not. You cannot have that. We will not give that to you. And now it's time for all of us. I'm saying America is like in those old movies, that damsel in distress who's tied to the railroad tracks, and there's a freight train coming at her right now, and she's waiting for heroes. That freight train is the radical left. America is a country in distress, tied to the railroad tracks, waiting for a hero to show up and rescue her. I need all of you and every conservative in this country to show up and be the heroes that America needs right now. A couple of months ago when I said I was watching these horrible images on TV, and I said, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I launched what we are calling WalkAway, Rescue America rallies around the country. Every single week, we're traveling around the country doing these rallies. We started in Baltimore 3 weeks ago. We had about 150 people show up. Then we went to Sacramento the next week. We had about 300 to 400 people show up. Last week, we were in Beverly Hills, California. 1,000 people showed up in Beverly Hills to rescue America. Tomorrow, we are in Milwaukee at 3:00 p.m. We will be there. Get there around 2:30. We will be at Cathedral Square. Show up. Show up. Be the heroes that America needs right now. You can go to walkawaycampaign.com, click rallies, find out where we're going next, what we're up to next. Tomorrow we will be in Milwaukee. Please come, 2:30 p.m. Make the drive. It's worth it. I know you've got grandkids. I know your hip is sore. I know that you're scared of Antifa. We've all got problems. But trust me, if you wake up the day after the election this year and you find out that Joe Biden is your president and Kamala Harris is your vice president and the Democrats have taken over the House and the Democrats have taken over the Senate, trust me, you're not going to be worrying about your sore hip or whatever else is going on. You're going to be wishing you could do anything you could possibly do to go back in time and stand up and fight for this country and make a difference. Tomorrow's how we're going to do it. I'm out of time. Tomorrow, be there. Go to walkawaycampaign.com. You can get all the information you need about showing up tomorrow. If you need to donate to or if you could donate to our organization, please do so. And please support, show up, and be there. Be the heroes that America needs right now. I love all of you. Thank you for coming out today. Oh, thank you all so much in the back. Thank you all so much. Walk away!